Francile McCottry. Welcome to a life-changing documentary called Love and Skin Color. Love and Skin Color is a documentary that would deal with interracial relationships. Love and Skin Color will show that no matter what skin color you are, if you are in love, y'all, you're just in love because the heart doesn't know color. The idea for Love and Skin Color came about after I watched a movie called The Lovings. The Lovings were an interracial couple who fell in love with each other and got married in Washington, D.C. in 1958. But when they moved to Virginia, it was against the law for blacks or white to be married to each other. So they took their case to the Supreme Court. And they won their case, y'all. This was a groundbreaking case that opened the door and laid the foundation for interracial marriages in America. Fast forward to 2019, and we are still having issues and division over race. Come on, y'all. We all bleed the same red blood. So what I decided to do was to get together with 3 beautiful couples and have a discussion about love and skin color. I want to start with a couple, my first couple here. Let's just dive right into the questions. Tara, how did you and Gerald meet?
You want me to take this one?
I think you're good at this.
We met at a gym seminar in Pennsylvania, where she's from. I noticed her before on their website, and
On the website?
yeah, it's a clothing company called Flag Northell.
Okay.
Which now it's going to be out there, but anyway, it's a clothing company, and she posted something on there, and she had like really colorful shoes on, and it just caught my eye, and all I said was nice shoes.
Oh, so you noticed the shoes before you noticed the beautiful woman here?
There you go. But I'm a shoe head, so that's me. Anyway, I went up there for that seminar. It was a strength and conditioning seminar, and ran by Richard Hawthorne. A lot of people may know him, some people might not, but and I thought to myself, I wonder if she's going to be there. And sure enough, she was there by herself. And I walked up and introduced myself. Here we are 5 years later.
That's awesome. So you actually moved from Pennsylvania to Texas to be with Jim.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's the first step in love right there. I love that.
It's outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I don't usually take steps like that, but yes, life is short, so I just felt.
Took a chance. Mm-hmm. And the chance turned big.
Yes, sure did.
That is awesome.
Yes.
I love this. David and Maggie, how did you guys meet?
Well, we met at work. We met at work on a hot August day. I was coming in from a sales call. My air conditioner was not the best. So everybody that lives in Texas knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm walking in hot and sweaty. It's about noon. And somebody said something chipper to me, and I just kind of like, I can't remember what I said, but whatever I said wasn't probably all that glowing. I don't know. What do you think?
No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, after the person who hired me was also the owner of the company, and so that just happened to be a day that he called me in to say, how did I like it there? And I said, oh, I like it a lot. I like everybody except this one guy is such a jerk, David Rios. But that didn't last long. I warmed up.
Yeah, I asked her for lunch. Out for lunch a couple of weeks later, and the rest is history, 30 years later.
That's awesome. Been married 30 years.
We have.
So, funny story that we like to tell because it's kind of unique. But believe it or not, we met at the mall. So, guys, there's some good women in the mall if you're looking for long-term relationships. But she was at the food court. I saw her walking by my store first. I was working at Best Buy, a Best Buy mobile store in the mall. At the time, just got out of college, trying to get my career kick-started, so trying to figure it all out. And I saw her walk by, so I kind of strategically made my way and positioned myself close to her in the food court and kind of just stood like I had no intentions on ordering lunch. I had already eaten lunch, but she didn't know that. And so I saw she had TCU basketball shorts on. I've always kind of like wanted to be with somebody long term that loved basketball, loved sports. And so I just asked her if she played basketball for TCU, and she just kind of gave me the cold shoulder.
It's pretty much when I blew him off.
Right.
The first time.
Right. And so she didn't play basketball for TCU, so I could sense the cold shoulder, so I kind of backed off a little bit, and I said, okay, if it's meant to be, it'll happen, right? It'll happen. I'll see her again.
To be fair to him, it wasn't a complete blow off as much it was my mind was just on other things. I was about to have an interview to teach high school. I was young, it was my first teaching position, and so my brain was just very focused on what questions are they asking me? How am I going to answer? What's the best response? I wasn't even in the realm of thinking about meeting someone in that moment. And so I kind of he asked me if I played for TCU. I said no, and that was it. I kind of moved on to getting my food and doing what I need to do.
And I could sense the negative vibes, so I kind of backed off a little bit and chilled. And I was like, if it's meant to be, I'll see her again. And you know, I went back to work, and then sure enough, I saw her again. And you know, the first thing that popped in my mind when I saw her the first time at the food court was a TCU basketball short. So that's the only thing I knew to do was just I didn't even ask her name at the food court. So I just said, "Hey, TCU," and she just kind of turned around and looked like, who is screaming? I guess I don't even know how she knew I was talking to her.
On a Wednesday night at the Hewlin Mall, who's yelling TCU across the hallway?
But she came over, so it worked, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just, you know, was talking to her, and I was kind of just didn't have a lot of time, so I was just straightforward and was like, "Hey, I would like to get to know you," and I didn't say I want to marry you. I just wanted to get to know you, hang out. And she was like, you know, basically kind of telling me I was being a little too forward, and that's when I hit her with the, hey, you know, if I met you at a bar, if I met you at a club, you give me your number 20 times, you know? So I was just like, you know, and
He's not wrong.
I had a
He's
point.
not wrong.
Right? So we moved forward, and she, you know, I even told her, I said, you know, hey, come back, you know, take your time, because she was planning on getting her nails done, preparing for her interview. She did that. She came back. When she came back, I was like, cha-ching, got it. I already kind of knew it was. But we exchanged numbers, and I ran errands with her the next day. I was a complete gentleman. That's the way I was raised. So
I'm all in on the errand running. I even remember asking him, like, you're really in on running errands? Like, I need to get my oil changed, and you do this. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I can't tell if he's, like, trying to kiss up or if, like, he's really in for this. But, I mean, here we are 11 years later, 3 kids, and we met at the mall. We always laugh. When I taught high school for 8 years, and all my kids would always ask me, how'd you meet your husband? And I said, y'all are going to laugh at us so much. In the age of social media and, you know, everything, we met at the mall. So.
That's good. That's awesome. So, Tara, what attracted you to Gerald?
He has a very kind spirit. I just got really peaceful, kind vibes from him. I allowed myself to open up to him. Usually a stranger like that I would just kind of shy away from, or he was just so kind, always had interesting things to talk about. We had a lot of the same interests, working out. You know, he'd send me different music, songs. We just really connected. I just felt like I didn't want to, we always talked to each other.
True, but you gotta tell the truth though. Like, I think, for about a year and a half, you ignored me when I would send you messages. And, hey, so are you serious with anybody?
Well, timing.
True, timing was kind of weird, but I did get ignored a little bit. But I still worked, and worked for 2 years, and then finally. Yeah, I'm single.
I don't want to put my heart out there to somebody who lives the whole way in Texas. That's scary. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm not going to allow myself to set myself up to get hurt. But there's just something about him that I remember one day at work, I was in the lunchroom at work, and my heart just went to my stomach. And I thought, I love this man. Oh my goodness. And it gives me goosebumps now, just allowing myself to move to Texas and to be here with him.
You know, after we got through that first initial thing, then there were times where we went to lunch with, you know, just other coworkers and things. But really, I think what attracted me to him was he was fun. He made working fun. I was the receptionist, and when he would call, he would say funny things. And I felt like I could just be real natural with him. I didn't have to act like I was at work. You know, I could just be natural and just had a good time talking to him.
David.
Well, I've always been an uptight person, and one of the things.
You said uptight? You said uptight?
Uptight. One of the things
yes.
that attracted me to Maggie was that she was kind of always the joyful spirit in the crowd. She was always laughing. People always migrated to her. She was always engaging. There was never an unkind word that she would say. And it just, something said, this person's different. And that one series of luncheons that we had with coworkers and everybody led to one specific lunch that we went out to. It's Madison. And still remember the place, still remember the lunch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, like I said at first, I was kind of like, I'm not really sure about this guy yelling at me at the mall. But, you know, after we went out, well, he's good looking for one.
Yeah.
And tall. As a tall person, I'm 5'10", and as a girl being tall, I'm always attracted to tall men. And we share a lot of the similar interests. We both are very big into sports. We both play basketball. We, you know, he's very driven, but he's also very transparent. And I really appreciate that. I think coming out of college, you deal with a lot of relationships and people who are kind of in it for themselves and not to tell the truth, just to hear what you want to hear to get what they want to get, and not really being fully honest. And Larry just has a really transparent, truthful heart. And so that was kind of the first step. And we just had really equal wants in our relationship. And we clicked really quickly. I mean, it was apparent to me very fast that we were going to have a really solid start.
Tranquil to Robin.
So she's beautiful, of course. Physically, I love her eyes. Robin has beautiful eyes. It's like looking into just big, pretty eyes. And I'm so glad our kids have a lot of traits from her. And just from the jump, you can just notice her caring spirit. I think it starts with her family. And she just cares about everybody. And that's also how I am. And so when you have another person that is as caring as you and has that type of love language, it just, you know that they're going to have your best interest in mind, right, which makes you just want to run through brick walls for that person as well. And another thing that I really loved about her from the jump is that she adopted my family. And so, I'm mama's boy through and through. And
to the point, they were on our first date. We went on our first date to the State Fair of Texas. I told him I had never been. I grew up in California, and he was like, "Oh, that's a sin. We have to go." And I was like, "Okay, awesome." It was like our first or second real date.
Yeah.
And I show up, and his mom and sister are there too, and I was like, "Okay, awesome. We're all going to the fair."
But you would have to say that did show you that I care about my family, which means I was going to.
And I think that's another thing that attracted me to him. As much as it was a surprise and not what you expect when you're starting to date someone. Yeah. I care about him caring about his family. It showed me a lot about him as a person, right. That this is not, I'm hiding my family. No, they are front and center in his life. And that's so important because it reflected kind of what I would want for our family as well. Right. So we joke about it, but it really was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you guys. I love it. So I want to ask you a question. When you fell in love with Carol, and you told your family you're going to move to Texas, how did your family react? You dated this whole chocolate guy from Texas to live in Pennsylvania to live with people. How did you react?
Initially, when I first saw him, when I first met him, I mean, he was a black man. It wasn't until, after I fell for him, I didn't even see that anymore. I didn't think about that. And one day, before he met my dad, he said, "Have you ever dated a black man?" And I remember I felt, the first thing I thought of was my dad, because I knew he would not approve. I live back home in Pennsylvania, I live in a predominantly white area. You don't see a lot of that interracial relationships, or mostly my entire family is white, and my dad, I remember the day I told him, and the first thing he said was, "Tara, I'm disappointed in you." And I hated that. I hated disappointing my dad, but I knew I loved him. And it wasn't until, it was a while later that my dad didn't meet him, learn his character, and finally see him for who he is, not
just
the color. Yes, and I mean, now, of course, they wish I was back home in Pennsylvania. They wish we would go there, but distance, this is just where I need. This is home.
Right.
Yes. So.
I mean, it came along. I mean, I think the first time I actually met him when we were leaving, he gave me a hug and said, "I love you," and I was like, I don't know how to react to that. I told him I loved him back, and he was like, "Please take care of my daughter." That's all she wrote. So.
And how did your family react, Gerald?
I mean, I kind of had a feeling that my parents would react. They're both from the South, Tennessee, so they lived through civil rights and all that. My parents wanted me to be careful because they know what comes with dating outside of your race. But ever since middle school, I've been attracted to white women.
Okay.
And that's just what I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
I mean, now, say someone of another race, if I fell in love, I fell in love. I mean, for me, it's just who treats me the way I want to be treated. And if I fall in love with them, I fall in love with them. They could be purple. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So, but I mean, my mom was kind of iffy, which most black mothers are, but she loves her. I mean, now she can't get enough of her. So
That's great. I love that. Like I said, just love and skin color. It's the heart and companionship.
I didn't thought much of anything. I'll kind of give you the background. The background is we had gone to a Cowboy game. It was Thanksgiving, and I told my mom we would be there afterwards just to have dessert. And we did. It was my mother and father. Obviously on a cold November evening, and nothing was ever said. Nothing was ever mentioned. To this day, nothing is said other than they just know Maggie is Maggie. There's no, obviously, there's skin color, but there's no discussing because it's a non-issue.
That's the way it should be. How about you, Maggie?
Yeah, it was a non-issue with my family either. And I didn't even tell them anything. I said David, and it was always just David, and it was never anything. So it was just, and I knew it wouldn't be an issue. I didn't think about that.
Right.
And so I guess we were lucky that our families were just accepting, and my parents are deceased now, but they love them as much as they love everybody else, all their other kids and grandkids and, other in-law kids. So, we were lucky in that.
That's
but I
great.
know a lot of people have a lot of problems.
Absolutely.
So we just did not.
Absolutely. I love that.
Honestly, I mean, because my family is in California, I had talked a lot about Larry before my family actually got to meet him.
Did you ever say he's black?
I don't remember specifically saying he was black. I mean, he sounds like an old white man, Larry Curry. So
I don't sound like an
not
name.
physically
I can
sound,
check the
but
name.
no, my parents. I grew up in Southern California, and it is very different than Texas and the South. And you see a way higher number of interracial couples. I had dated a black guy before. Being so involved with sports, that was kind of my realm. The majority of people that I were around often were black. And so my dad had this, he always told me, look, I've been praying for a husband for you since you were little, and I have these things on this list, and if he can mark these things on this list, I do not care if he is red, brown, orange, purple, whatever. We know what God has in store for you, and you deserve someone who will push you to be better and support you. And Larry did all of those things. He was determined, he was caring. I think the biggest hook, line, and sinker, we were just started dating in the fall, and that Christmas I had like a dinky phone. It wasn't a smartphone, and him being a cell phone person, he created this plan to get me a new cell phone for Christmas, but in doing so, he had to call my dad because I was still on my dad's family plan, and so he and my dad had all this interaction, and my dad was just so impressed with how adamant he was about doing this for me and kind of being willing to put himself out there to do that. And so my family loves Larry. Really, the only thing that ever came up, my grandmother, who loves Larry to death, her concern, and because of the time she grew up in, was, are you prepared to raise biracial children in today's climate? That was kind of what her forward foot was. Not, I don't like Larry, or I don't want you to be married to a black man. It was just, Robin, I want you to have open eyes to what it means potentially to have biracial children. And so that was kind of the only thing that I ever dealt with my family in terms of, it wasn't even conflict. It was almost more of just kind of this protective warning.
Right.
So.
Larry, how did your family feel?
I think, my family's ride or die. So they want, I've always been, from all my first generation cousins, the youngest. So kind of just like the baby boy first, trying to, pass it on to the second generation cousins. And so everything's been supportive of me. My family has always been supportive of me in anything that I do, and they know that Robin is the one for me, right? I think less family, but more just indirect things and culture, and oh, you married, people at work sometimes, you got the white prize and stuff like that, and kind of similar to what Gerald said earlier is for me, I didn't target. I have never dated white girls. I didn't target white girls. But if you fall in love with somebody, you fall in love with somebody. It doesn't even matter, right? So I didn't look for a white girl. I didn't look for a black girl. I looked for somebody that I could be a life partner with. Yeah, and the cultural differences are there, but we deal with it, and we adopt each other's cultural differences. Her Christmases are a lot more over the top than your traditional black Christmas. But
we have ultimate white America Christmas.
Yeah, when I walked in the first time I saw that, I was like
Santa comes. I mean,
right
it's
now?
real.
Like, I need to go back to Texas right now. And my mom and my sister were with me, and they were like, what the hell are you doing? But yeah, I love her. We have had no issues, at least on the surface.
Well, since you're the only couple that has biracial children, do you worry about that in this society? Your children have any kind of issues? Or
I think, yeah, but and no. So like with everything, there's a gift and a curse, right? So the curse is, they're going to be, there's no checkbox that says biracial, right? There's if you have a black father, you're black, right? And so if along with that comes the perceptions, the negative things that come along with that in this society, unfortunately. That stuff happens, right? But I think the gift part of that and the perfect thing about it that I was so excited about when we had decided we wanted to have kids is that they're going to be well-rounded, right? They're going to be able to adjust in any situation with any group of people because they have grandparents that are white, they have grandparents that are black, they have cousins that are white, cousins that are black, and so they're going to be able to relate to every culture, our two cultures and our two worlds per se. Which have become one, and I would say our families have come together even more. And we've all met each other. We all love each other. We sleep in the same beds. We eat the same food. They've been introduced to a little soul food. And I know her dad was like probably looking at her mom like, why you don't make this stuff at home, but just that type of stuff, it's a blessing, but it is, but biracial couples are becoming more than norms.
Absolutely.
And I think the one last thing about our kids is that, for me specifically, because so often biracial kids only get slated as black. Like, if you have any black in you, you're just black. Which a lot of times, as a mother, you kind of lose that identity. Like, my kids don't identify as any part of me.
Right.
And so that's kind of something that we've kind of talked about in terms of talking to our kids about, because, society will call them black. You know what I mean? Because that's what we do as a culture. But it's so important for them to just identify as who they are.
Right.
Because they're half of me and half of him.
Mm-hmm.
And, the idea that you're black is like, you are half white.
Right.
50% of you is white. And so having that open discussion about what that means, because a lot of times when society just calls them black, that kind of negates my whole family.
Absolutely.
Me, my family, my sisters, and that's their aunts, their grandparents. And so what is the right dialogue to have with them as they get older? Right now they're really young, and so it hasn't really come up because, when they're 5 and under, they don't really see those things.
Right.
But as they do get older, it is a conversation that we've talked about deliberately having to make sure that they kind of have an identity outside of just what society calls them.
That's right. That's great. Thank you so much.
So even though we don't have kids together, I do have a son, and I had to explain to him, you're not black, you're not white, you're mixed. Like, you're different, but a good different. And I think he's starting to understand that, to where I have 2 separate things that make me unique. And I think in this world that we're in right now, it's getting easier than it was before, because there's a lot more biracial kids, a lot more interracial couples. Like, you even see it on TV too now. Commercials, like, I saw a commercial the other day and I was like, back in the 80s, 90s, it was always like a white couple on TV. But now it's, either a black man and a white woman, or a white woman, or you know what I'm saying. It's mixed.
Right.
And then even the kids are mixed on TV, so it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, to add what you're saying, Gerald, according to the Pew report, he's saying that the mixed race America is becoming more diverse. The mixed race of individuals is becoming more diverse as well. So, yeah, I totally agree with what you said. This is going to be the last question I'm going to ask Sean. And once again, I want to thank you so much for joining me. In 2019, this is 2019, and we're still having issues about race, skin color, and everything's going on. So we want to know, what word would you have that's going to say, to bring healing to our country? What is it that you could say to show that we're all the same? We're just beautifully rainbow colored. We bleed the same red blood, but still there's issues in 2019 about race. What would you say, Tara, that would bring some type of healing? Just one statement or something that would bring healing to American people. We're all Americans. So what would you say? Like you say, your dad said that you disappointed him. And I can see his way of thinking, but what would you say, since we all together, now you've been with Gerald, how many years? 5 years now. So what would you say to Americans that we're all the same? There's no difference. We're just, the skin color is the difference, and that's all. So what would you say that would bring some type of healing to America as being of a different race?
I think just looking beyond the surface and stop and listen and see what's there. It's so easy for people to jump to conclusions at the outside, what they see on the outside. But I never categorized colors, or it's hard for me to answer that, but just look within open?
What would you say, Gerald?
You said one word, like one
No, a
statement.
phrase or sentence. One sentence.
I think it just needs. I think the world just needs love, to be honest, because there's a lot of people that just there's a lot of hate for no reason. I mean, love. I just love people. That doesn't matter color, what they are, who they love, whatever. Just love them.
Yeah.
The same way you want to be loved, love that person.
So a few words, remove your biases. And I'll tell you why that's important is because I think too often through life we see things, whether it's we read it, whether it's on television, whether it's conversations with our friends and colleagues, whether it's our work environment, whatever the case is, there's a bias that everybody develops. And based on that bias, then things begin to start becoming visual. Visual may mean skin color, visual may mean a specific gender, whatever the case may be. So I think when people remove that biases, I think it's something as simple as sitting down, having a conversation, sharing a cup of coffee, sharing a meal, to really understand the person, not the skin. I think the skin is nothing more. The skin color challenge that we have today, the gender challenge that we have today, it's based on the biases that we've all developed. And sadly, it's not getting any easier, in my opinion.
You know, I think the most hopeful thing is that there are biracial children, because I think that only healing will come through children. I think once people are older, it's, you know, there's things you get in your head that you just cannot get out. But so I think the biracial children are a hope, because, you know, when little kids are in school and then they go to your house, and when they go to your house, you know, they see a white mom and a black dad, you know, and then that becomes norm, and he's fun and she's fun, and, you know, and it doesn't end up being a big deal. So my hope is that it's the children.
I mean, there's so many things to be said, but I think the simplest, I mean, I think everybody has said it so simply: love, removing bias, kind of reteaching as kids get older, and also just, I mean, for us personally, love like God loves, and specifically everyone, you know, no matter whether you're an immigrant, a citizen, you're whatever color, whatever race, whatever religion, that, you know, everybody's autopsy is going to be exactly the same. When you cut us open, everyone has the same organs, parts, everything. And so it seems so hard and irrational to think of all the hate, but it is so plentiful in our country. And so really just, I mean, I agree with Gerald, just love and not having that bias and being open and being willing to put yourself out there. I think a lot of times it's easy to be on Facebook or behind social media and be open and love, but in real life it's a lot harder. And so to just genuinely love.
Larry, what would be your answer to trying to heal our country as far as race is concerned?
So I'll piggyback, you know, off the other couples, love, removing biases, but also two that really stand out to me that I think in the workplace, in anything can solve a lot of problems is conversation and open-mindedness. So you can't have conversations if you're not open. Productive conversations if you're not open-minded, right? So I know a lot of times that, you know, what a white person might think of an African-American person, male, female, whatever, may not be the case all the time. You know, we fall victim to stereotypes a lot, which sometimes are true, but, you know, they can be blown out of perspective, right? Do I like fried chicken? Yeah, I like fried chicken, but everybody just about likes fried chicken, right? I mean, like, stuff like that, but if we can, as Americans, sit down and people have, like, legitimate conversations, be candid with one another, be truthful of how you feel. If you feel like I might take your purse because I'm African American, say that. And then let's have a conversation of that white man over there might take your purse too, right? So, you know, those are the type of things, and I just think people need to have conversations about these things. But we are so sensitive as a country right now. We need to have those conversations. We need to not be hypocritical as one race to the next, If we have issues with a situation, but then we go do the same thing to each other. But we need to be truthful with ourselves, have open conversations, and be really, really open-minded. Productive conversations, not like conversations like some of our political leaders have. Productive conversations.
Thank you, Larry. I would like to thank my guests for joining me today to talk about this special Love and Skin Color documentary. And I want everybody to remember that love always wins and the heart knows no color. And I hope you have been inspired by this wonderful documentary. Thank you so much. You can get this documentary on any social media. And I just want to thank God. Thank you all. Good blessings to everyone. Thank you so much.